What if a portal opened at the bottom of the ocean? Mia. Okay, so here's the question. What if a circular portal 20 meters across opened up at the very bottom of the Challenger Deep, the deepest point in any ocean on Earth? How fast would the sea drain out? And what would the planet look like as it happened? Theo, let me walk you through it. The Challenger Deep sits about 10,935 meters down in the Mariana Trench. At that depth, the water pressure is over 1,000 times what you feel at sea level, more than 15,000 pounds pressing on every square inch. If a ship got sucked toward the opening, that pressure wouldn't just dent it, it would fold the hull like paper and pull it straight through the hole. Mia, cool. Also, where does the portal come out? Theo, directly above one of the polar ice caps on Mars. Somewhere, a rover is about to have a very confusing day. Mia, so what actually happens back on Earth the moment it opens? Theo, almost nothing. Water rushing out of a 20-meter hole at that depth moves at roughly 460 meters per second, driven by the same physics, Torricelli's law, that makes water spray farther out of a hole near the bottom of a bucket than one near the top. Do the math on the flow rate and you get something like 145,000 cubic meters per second gushing out. That's almost as much water as the Amazon River discharges, one of the biggest rivers on Earth, pouring through a single hole. And it still wouldn't matter. The ocean holds about 1.3 billion cubic kilometers of water. At that outflow rate, sea level would drop by a fraction of a centimeter per day. No whirlpool, no visible vortex. The opening is simply too small and the ocean is too deep and too vast. Mia, so let's cheat. Let's say we open more drains, or bigger ones, until the ocean actually starts dropping in a way we can map. Theo, then things get interesting fast. Minus 50 meters land bridges reappear that vanished thousands of years ago. Britain reconnects to mainland Europe across what's called Doggerland, a real stretch of land that was above water until rising seas swallowed it around 8,000 years ago. Sri Lanka fuses with India. New Guinea and Australia rejoin into a single landmass geologists call Sahul, which they shared for most of the last ice age. Sumatra, Java, and Borneo merge with the Southeast Asian mainland into ancient Sundaland. And after roughly 2,000 years of building dikes and pumping stations to keep the sea out, the Dutch suddenly have the opposite problem. Some of those same dikes are now holding water in, and the Netherlands is high and dry. As the world's most practiced experts in land reclamation, they wouldn't waste the opportunity. They'd start pushing outward onto the newly exposed seabed. Minus 100 meters the Bosphorus Strait, the narrow, shallow channel linking the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, silts out. The Black Sea is now landlocked and stops falling with the rest of the ocean. This has actually happened in reverse before. Around 5.3 million years ago, the entire Mediterranean dried into a salt-crusted basin, then was catastrophically refilled when the Atlantic broke back through the Strait of Gibraltar, an event geologists call the Zanclean Flood. Minus 200 meters. The map is getting genuinely strange. New islands break the surface across every ocean. Indonesia has swollen into one continuous landmass. The Dutch, now the closest thing the planet has to seasoned floor-of-the-ocean engineers, are steadily expanding their claim across Europe's newly drained continental shelf. Minus 500 meters. The shallow straits around Japan empty out, turning the islands into a land bridge stitching Korea to the Russian mainland. New Zealand picks up a cluster of new islands. The Dutch keep going. Minus 1,000 meters. The Arctic Ocean's connections to the rest of the sea close off and it stops draining. Locked in place is its own basin. New Zealand, fittingly enough, keeps growing. It was named after Zeeland, a province of the Netherlands, so it's basically living up to its own name at this point. Meanwhile, the original Zealanders have a new land route into North America. Minus 2,000 meters islands are surfacing everywhere. The Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean lose their connection to the Atlantic and become sealed basins of their own. Minus 3,000 meters peaks of the mid-ocean ridge. The longest mountain range on Earth, some 65,000 kilometers of it, almost entirely hidden underwater. Start breaking the surface. Vast new stretches of raw, jagged seafloor emerge. By this point, it's a safe bet that New Zealand and Old Zealand have geographically reunited. Minus 5,000 meters. Nearly every major ocean basin has sealed itself off from the drain and stopped falling. Empty. When the last drainable water is gone, there's still more water left than you'd expect. Mostly as shallow inland seas, but with a handful of trenches holding pockets 4 to 5 kilometers deep. It's a small-scale preview of what's already happening today to places like the Aral Sea, a once massive lake that's been shrinking for decades after losing its water supply, just at planetary scale instead of regional. Mia, and the planet itself. Theo, not good. Draining that much of the ocean would gut the climate and collapse ecosystems from the surface down to the seafloor. Realistically, you're looking at mass extinction across almost every level of the food chain. But if any group of humans could conceivably engineer their way through a disaster of that scale, it's the Dutch. They've spent centuries turning the sea into land on purpose. We'd probably be in decent hands.